Yes, this page, they
This
have
we
already.
have. So
Do
this
this
one.
page 7 copies
Okay.
of it. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
Zalman, forgive me. I have to be a woman and fix the schleifer.
thank you. So, yeah, it would have worked out very nice. All right. So one of the things that is interesting about Shavuos is Akdomis. And last night I was doing Akdomis with the people in the Nigun thing. And I used the ones from the old Silverman prayer book. Here, take a copy. You take a copy. He's behind the machine, and you were there yesterday anyway when we were doing that.
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you.
I remember this one.
So I like the funky English there with throng and sung and all that kind of stuff.
Probation.
But if you do it this way, like, before the words of God supreme today are read, for this my theme of probation will I see. These my sentences to speak. Just 2 or 3 while tremblingly on him I meditate. The pure does bear the world for air his power who can relate. Where the sky of parchment made a quill each reed at each twig and blade. Could we with ink the oceans fill, where every man ascribe a skill, the marvelous story of God's great glory would still remain untold. For he, most high, the earth and sky, created alone as a whole.
That's a wonderful imagery of that if each reed and twig and blade were a quill, and everybody's writing.
And the ocean,
all the.
So that's why I'm
so
bringing it to your
powerful.
attention to read it to your people on Shavuos. Even if the service is going to be in the evening,
The sky, the whole sky were parchment. You were writing.
And when he describes later on how the angels stand around God like in a great court, and what the goyim are gonna get, look on top. How fairer wilt thou be to sight if thou with us in faith unite. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey!
Welcome, Baruch haba.
From
Africa.
Africa reporting.
you didn't bring an elephant.
I brought almonds, so.
Almonds. He's always eating almonds. Yo!
So,
Hi, man. Good to see you.
hey, I'll give you a hug, but I've got too many machshirim on me, so you get it. Okay. We're in the middle here about Akdomis.
Okay. Hi, sweetie. Good to see you.
That great, our eldest son, remember he died?
Sure.
He sold the privy to a niece of your hero.
Papa, that's very funny.
He started singing.
So anyway, that is wonderful. And when you have the last stanza, you upright who heard the voice of my song, may you merit to join this glorious throng. In heavenly halls you shall meet them in time, if you hearken his words, melodious, sublime. And then comes that limerick form, exalted on high, forever and I, our Lord in glory and awe. We are his choice, then let us rejoice that he blessed and gave us the law. So you have that as a Hakdama for the Torah reading on the first day of Shavuos. And I thought that as funky as it is, it's nice to do that with people, because they can see what, at least what the medieval mind had in mind, thinking about God and giving the Torah and beautiful, the angels don't want, everything that they could take of Midrash they put in. I put on the sheet two more pieces. One is the Baal Shem Tov song, one is Michael's Melody, because it's the yard side of the Baal Shem Tov on Shavuot.
First
And
day,
I was,
First day is the yard side?
That's a big question. Okay. And I think I would go for the second day, And if it's a soil, they haven't got a brera, they have to do it the first day, But then I also told him the story of the Ger Tzedek of Vilna, Count Pugatzky, who also was martyred on Shavuot. So I'm just telling you that's grist for the mill. Whatever you might do, you might be able to do that. And the Pugatzky story is so wonderful. Dorit Har was there yesterday. She's always there when we do these things. So she was telling how she was at the cemetery. Thank you. She was at the cemetery in Lodz, and there were mausoleums for the Pugatzky family. A whole bunch of them. She had seen them. So she told me about that after I told that story about Count Pugatzky and how he was martyred because he had become a Ger Tzedek, and the story of the tree that grew out of his grave is a whole wonderful story. And then how lightning struck it just when the Nazis invaded Poland. And
it's the Lodz ghetto that Bernard often does the tours.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And we just did a wedding this past weekend up in Vale, Aspen, and one of the relatives was a survivor of Lodz, grew up there, and was in Auschwitz. And last summer was the reunion of the survivors of the last transport. He was in the last transport. Very learned Jew, very learned.
Today I heard from a man who does Reiki. He was doing Reiki on a Jewish lady. He isn't Jewish, or at least not in this incarnation. And he was holding her in the back, and all of a sudden she started coughing. And it was very much, he had come to the conclusion that that's how she went out last time around as a little girl. And it's so amazing how these things keep coming. We ask about the afterlife story. The Sefer by Reb Aaron Berachia of Modena is called Ma'avar Yabok.
Oh, right, yeah, he mentions that.
Right, and you also have the Menashe ben Israel, who wrote a Sefer Nishmat Chaim.
Right.
And of course, the interesting thing is that Frum people were angry at Mendelssohn, who was making a beautiful statement about the afterlife too, the Phaidon. Yeah. Anyway, I got to start 2 lines on the other page that I didn't copy because they were just on the bottom. בחודש השלישי לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים ביום הזה באו מדבר סיני.
Which page are we on?
It's not there.
Oh, this is something else.
Those are the 2 lines that are not found there because. So that's the heading, okay? Now everybody goes into this geschäft of Bachodesh Hashlishi here, and if you had an opportunity to look at the book by Agnon, Atem Re'item, the same way as Agnon has a wonderful sefer for Yamim Noraim, where he gathers all kinds of stories, he has another sefer called Atem Re'item.
It was translated into English. And
only recently.
Yeah, a couple years ago, JPS published it.
Yeah, because for a long time they didn't want to publish it because he quotes some stuff of Reb Mendel Rimenova that what did God say? Only Aleph, even without the kamatz. You know, and so they were worried that from people, but sof it got translated, and I'm very glad. It's an amazing resource to talk about things. And if I were to make a Tikkun Shavuos, I would want to do the Atim Reitim a lot more than how would I say, the Sears Roebuck of Torah. You know why I call it Sears Roebuck of Torah? Because they took from every Sedra what you read for the Kohen on Monday and what you read for the Maftir. So it's like Herschel Ostropolyev ate up the whole fish and only let the head and the tail and put them together and says the fish is a whole fish, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what they did from each Sedra. Then they did the same thing with Mishnayos. The first Perik, or the first Mishnah and the last Mishnah. And then they did a shtikala from Gemara, from everything. And in the end they brought some Zohar, and that's the Tikkun Leil Shavuos. So there's a wonderful story about Rabban Karlina, who on Shavuos morning shouted out in Polish, Dawaya Tavara! So what does it mean? It's time to deliver the goods. He said, all night you spent on the catalog, to see what's in there, but now you have to deliver the goods. So, but the Tikkun Leil Shavuos, going through that is always an important thing. And you also, toward dawn, I remember with great fervor how I would read the Taryag mitzvahs just as the sun was rising and say Nasa v'Nishma on every one of them,
Mm-hmm.
So 613 of them.
So is there going to be a Tikkun Leil here on Sunday night?
Yeah.
Sunday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try to come.
Yeah, so I don't know what you're gonna do here, but I'm gonna be at Eilat Chaim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
you are.
I just got an email. Aryeh Cooper Smith and Wendy will be there.
Yeah, they sent me already the latest chapter
Of the Shlomo book?
of the Shlomo book. That's wonderful. Okay, so having said the pasuk, I want to get back to the pasuk.
Just can I do a slight hijack? Did we talk about today about Lag Bomer at all?
No,
Are we going to?
I don't think so,
Okay.
because this, if I were to see you again before Shavuos, I don't know what's going to be next week and so on and so forth. Things are time-wise is really a crunch.
Okay.
But you want to say something? Say.
I do.
Say.
It's killing
So
me.
why should you plots? Go ahead.
Yes, I shouldn't plot. Okay, so here's the thing, and I don't know where this comes from exactly, but I have a sense that this whole idea of Lag Bomer and the whole idea of the Sphira and of the mourning period from some plague or other that happened to 24,000 students was not about a plague at all, but was about an unarmed revolt against the Romans by the students of Rabbi Akiva. And the rabbis in their whatever wisdom decided to turn it into a plague because they don't like to support warrior Jews particularly. I have a feeling that Lag Bomer was maybe the end of the massacre of the students of Rabbi Akiva rather than some kind of a nameless plague. And I think there's also a statute of limitations that needs to be invoked about this whole Sphira business. As a rabbi, I get requests to do weddings in this period, and it bothers me that there's another 7-week period where Jews are not allowed to marry Jews, and it bugs the hell out of me. And I have I had an issue with it in Cape Town, and I'm having an issue with it here. About the Sphira and whether to take it seriously or not take it seriously, and I take it seriously, but I don't follow it because I think there's a statute of limitations on suffering that the Jewish people don't invoke often enough. We hold on to our suffering century after century, and our dear rabbis, of which I am one, by the way, have been very good at this, in holding on to the suffering century after century, and never letting go in such a horrific way. So there's another 7-week period of feel bad for a while. We want you to feel bad. We'll give you a vague reason why to feel bad, but please feel bad for another 7 weeks, especially in springtime.
I give you a yeshikah for this Torah
Amen.
because I want to say that in practice I haven't stopped listening to music during Sphira time, and the thing of speaking of the Crusades a lot more. That's what fastened it. But if you say what caused, even if you take Chazal seriously and say it was a plague, then they ask, why did they deserve to die? Al shelo berchu b'Torah tchila. Al shum shelo berchu b'Torah tchila. Because they didn't make a bracha before they studied. Now, I take this as a serious one because Dick Hirsch just wrote a very nice article for why secular Jews should hold on to the God idea and to keep mitzvahs. It's a very beautiful article that he wrote for Larry Bush. You know, Lawrence Bush, he always has these Yiddishist, secularist things that he does. When you take a look and see sometimes how people use Torah to, what's the word, to put other people down, you know. Someone says a kardom lachbar bo, he uses it to give someone a dig, you know. That is not using the Torah the wrong way, and for this reason we say that. If you then go to the place of what stopped it, you know, whether Rabbi Akiva and his love for Bar Kokhba infected on the people that they could win this time because he's really Mashiach and so on and so forth. Is that could go into a big historic thing. For the two times that interesting coincidences happen. One is when you go the Sedras according to the Sphira, then Bereshis is Chesed Shebe Chesed, and Noach is Dam 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 Gur Shebe Chesed. Avram Avinu comes in, and Tiferet Shebe Chesed, and you know, and Netzach Shebe Chesed comes in. The Akedah and Hod Sarah comes in, Chaya Sarah. So you have the whole thing like this. And by the time you get to Matan Torah, to Yisro, it is Tiferet Shebe Tiferet. You know, that's great. So today is Hod Shebe Hod. And the big question comes up, if you want to go into that a little more, in the Zohar, in that shtikala that people read during the Tikkun Shavuos, Reb Shimon says, how long will we have to stand on only one leg? What's the leg you're standing on? It's Netzach. Because the left leg, Hod, had been injured at the wrestling of Yaacov.
Ma'avar Yavok.
Right, Ma'avar Yavok. And so what happens is that we have been limping on Hod. So if you look at the cathedrals and Rococo and Baroque and all the glories, things that they have done, and even, you know, the Tibetans and the Hindus and all of them have a lot of Hod. And we haven't had any Hod much. Why? Because we have gotten into Dava, Kolayom Dava, and all the question and what you were just talking. So the tikkun of that in Hod Shebe Hod is to recognize how Tenahod Chala Shamayim, you know, Hod V'Hadar Lefanav, how beautiful the world is, and so on and so forth, and to make a tikkun. Therefore to go out into the field, and therefore to make the bonfires, and therefore to celebrate that kind of stuff. We were Yotze on
Like Bomer.
Unlike Bomer,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
They had some.
I mean,
Go.
I've had this real problem about because if you're going to do it based on the you know, the spherotic tree, then what Reb Yaacov offered needs to find balance. I have found, I am offended beyond embarrassment by the usage of our suffering to gain political ground, to inculcate into our Jews. The people who talk about the sermons given by rabbis around this country, the number of times that they invoke the suffering of the Jews and everything, it's, you know, dayenu. On the other hand, in Jewish renewal, because we've attracted wounded people, survivors, and all this kavod, that they want to wrestle themselves away from it. And there isn't a balance. And it's not this generation to find the balance. I'm convinced of that. But I hope my children's generation will find that balance between invoking the sorrow in its appropriate place and the joy that we in renewal have so, and you know, and Rabbi Yaacov is a perfect example of the promoter of the joy. But we need that balance, and I don't know where it is. You know?
Yesterday, we went for a little while to be with Gabriel, and he gave a concert
Yeah.
at the Nomad. You were there?
No, unfortunately, we couldn't
Okay.
arrange with our
So
children.
he loves his guitar.
Yeah.
Who is this? Gabriel?
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves his guitar. So he can make a wonderful riff on the guitar, sort of a rock riff.
Yeah.
And then he shouts in sometimes blue and sometimes some other stuff and so on. And I so miss the Jewish part of that. Why? Nothing minor
Yeah.
in there, right? The one it didn't. I just had the sense that where are the gaguim? You know, he has some gaguim. I wanna, but it came out so. How would I say?
Parv.
Huh?
Parv?
No, not parv. It came out goyish.
Yeah.
Like white bread, you know, and green
And
jello,
mayonnaise.
you know.
Right. It's like using George Harrison's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
Yeah,
All right, and you listen to that, and it's a gentle weeping
yeah,
as opposed to a shry.
yeah.
All right.
So Yotam uses that for his telephone thing.
Does he? That's cool.
Yeah,
That's smart.
yeah. While my machine gently beeps. He's good.
Yeah.
All right, can we learn a little?
No, I don't know, because I just have to tell you, Amitai's phone message is, I want to break free. And that's such a teenager, right? I want to break free. Some new song.
Okay.
He was singing something like this about freedom too yesterday. But I'm just saying, apropos of what you're saying, but one thing that I want to say, not all the balance is caught in one individual. Sometimes the Klal Yisrael has balance. So what we are doing in renewal balances what other people are doing there. There used to be a Hasidic story. You got me going. There was a rich guy who decided he wants to have good Adams, you know. So they used to always buy sons-in-law this way. How did they do it? They promised so and so many years of scholarship, of kest. You can sit and study Torah and so on and so forth. So he got himself one Chosid Lamden and one Misnagid. So, as it happened, the Chosid made his way to the Rebbe every time there was a Yontif, left his wife, you know, and schlepped, and his father-in-law made him nice kapotes and so on. He came back, a bisschen zerrissen, some of the buttons were missing and so on and so forth, and not so clean. So the Misnagid says to his brother-in-law, the Chosid, take a look how much you're wasting time, the time that you're traveling, that you're quetching around, and you're finally going to make it to the Rebbe, and there you don't have a real Simchas Yontif, and you're not fulfilling your obligation to your wife, and all these kinds of things. And so I'm doing so many mitzvahs while you, they are doing so many averos. So the Chosid says, I tell you what, the averos I do at the Rebbe are kapora on the mitzvahs you do it.
Sounds like a good Jewish family.
But when you go into what he's saying, you know, there is a balance, okay? And it comes out. Okay, let's go on. So he's trying to say something what is this thing about that happens in the Chodesh HaShlishi? שנזכר כאן יציאת מצרים, כי אף שיצאו ממצרים בחודש הראשון, עם כל זה, היה להם עוד, and now we come שייכות. You see that line? למצרים, יען שלא נסבר עוד בשלימוס מצידם, ובחודש השלישי נגמר מצידם יציאת מצרים בשלימוס. You can take the Golas, the Mitzrayim, you can take the Jews out of Mitzrayim in one night, but it takes 3 months to take the Mitzrayim out of Jews. Basically,
Only
that's what
3
he's
months?
saying. Huh?
Only 3 months?
Well, but for right now, he's saying it this way. Yeah. ואז באו למדבר סיני, שזה רומז לגמר היציאה, because Midbar Sinai says, finally you're out of Mitzrayim. Now, what, I don't know, any of you been in Egypt?
Sinai.
You have. You have
Yes.
too?
I've been in Sinai, I've been in Cairo.
All right. So when you make your way from Cairo to the Sinai, or from Sinai to Cairo, you see how bleak, how desert is. There is an oasis called Firan. It's Paran, the old Paran, from the Chumash. And we came around a bend in the road, and it's this brown, sun-beaten earth. Nothing grows there. We come around the corner, and the green hits us so beautifully because there was an oasis right there. And you could see why the Arabs are into green that way, because it was remarkable. So, but Egypt, when you're in Cairo itself, you see palm trees, you see there's grass, there's vegetation. And why is Egypt called Mitzrayim? Because in the narrows of the Nile, this is where vegetation grows, and nothing else grows on either of the other sides. So that's why it's called Mitzrayim, Mutzer in Arabic. ואז באו למדבר סיני, שזה רמז לגמר היציאה, שנעשו מתוקנים ומוכשרים לקבל לתורה, כי מדבר רומז שהיו מופשטים מכל חמדה ודבר גשמי מעולם הזה. I love that. You know, when people talk about taking a retreat in the desert, the Carmelites in the desert, Santo Desierto, the holy desert, you know, Eliyahu goes to Mount Horeb. That sense of going into the desert, and the desert fathers and all that stuff that you have there. So he says, yeah, because in the desert, what kind of a chemda can you have? You barely have the koyach to survive. You know, there isn't any of that. The gashmis isn't oppressing. If you imagine somebody going through, suddenly making a transition from Broadway in New York to the Midbar, it's like the deafening, the cold, the mamad daka would be overwhelming, you know, not hearing any of the noises of the traffic and so on. So, en Sinai romes al sur mera kedeise, mai har Sinai har shiyar de Sinai la'akum alef. היו ישי א', שהיו ישראל היו מסניעים כל דבריו, כל עניין העולם הזה, עד שהם נמשכים ורוצים למדבר אחר רצון יזבח. There is a thing about an echo of Kotzk over here. Someone had said to Reb Mendele Kotzk when he had no parnasa, he was very poor, that there was a woman by the name of Temerl. Temerl was a very rich lady, and she would give sinecures to various Hasidic rabbis. Put them officially on her payroll, but actually she didn't expect anything much of them. So Reb Yitzchak friend of it doesn't want to come right now, the town. It's a town in Poland. He went and she made him sort of like a secretary, and he came in a couple of hours a week, and the rest of the time he was able to learn and daven and do this stuff, and she had him on the payroll. So someone suggested he should go, the Reb Mendele Kosacoff should go to Temerl and see if he can get that too, because she'll give him geld. And he started to say, geld, feh! Like this, you know? If you take the word geld, gimel aleph, gimel ayin lamet tes, it has the same numerical value as blotted.
Which means dirt.
Dirt, right? So geld is blotted, you know, so you get the idea. It comes through, as he says here, because they didn't want to have anything to do with Inyane Olam Hazeh. Now, I want to say that don't go historical over here, because I can't imagine that the people who were saying to Moshe Rabbeinu that they remember the Sirah Basar and the Betzalim and the Kishuim that they had in Mitzrayim, you know, that these were people who were so hating in Yoneh Olam Hazeh, right? But since we are talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim as one of those mythic things that holds through past history, so that's what he means. כי כל חלק האדם הוא בלא תעשה בהיות אסור מרע בבירור מגדרים שמצד האדם, ואחר שנשלמו בזה להיות אסור מרע, שזה שלמות יציאת מצרים. אז זכו להסגלוס מאמר אנוכי השם אלוקיך, שזה האור שמצד השם יסבור. כי להגיע לקדוש אז מאמר אנוכי מצד האדם אין זה כוח שום אדם. This is remarkable, and this is, see, here's where you get an embedded gem in Ishbitz that is very strong. If you don't look at Sur Merah from a Shulchan Aruch point of view, but you look at Sur Merah from a point of view of negation, this not, this not, this not. Okay, so it leads you also to a level of negation that goes all the way up to mind issues.
Yeah.
So then you get to what is neti, not this, not that, to all negative theology. So you get to the place where you say that anything positive I can say about God is not true.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do this kind of Surah Merah, so I should be able to hear the Mamar Onochi. Because if I want to do this, that if I want to grab hold, take a look, the word concept comes from the Latin concapto, to grab with. The German word for concept is Begriffsmittel. Begriff, to grab with, it means to grab with, right? Begriffsmittel. So he says there's no way in which we can do that with our concepts. But if you go with that negative thing, then finally you can hear the Mamar Anochi. Shal Zeh Amru, the Kula Alma, B'Shabbos Nitno Torah, they're all of them agree that the Torah was given on Shabbos. Now, in Ishbitz there is a very strong teaching that goes something like this. Why is it that Shvisa, which means not doing, should be a positive commandment? It's negation, so why make it a positive commandment?
It's active inactivity.
Well, that's exactly the point he's making. He says, when you get the itch to do, you say, I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing. You need to have that kind of thing to be able to say that in the not doing, I'm doing.
Can I just share something?
Sure.
When my sweet mother came out to Colorado, and I said to her, so what do you think? She says, all this land, are they ever going to use it? She wanted to have like buildings. She wanted to have Brooklyn here. I said, we're using it. We're looking at it. But that's actually a powerful thing,
I want to tell you, every time I travel, I was up in near Ward. Do you know where Ward is?
Yeah.
Far. Yeah?
Yeah.
Past Tabernash and Winter Park and so on. And I see the land, and it gives me a kvetch each time. I'm thinking back to 41, 42, 43, so much land around, and they didn't let Yiddelach in and Roosevelt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can appreciate your mother. The other thing too, I once was in, remember my Zionist youth, Techazak na yidei kol lachenu hamchonenim. Yeah. So I was all hot on drying out swamps.
Right.
The chule,
Right.
And so I asked the guy I went fishing with, in the wetlands outside of New Bedford. I asked them, how come that they don't dry up the swamps here? You
We
know?
wouldn't have cranberries.
Well, the whole point that a swamp is to be dried and land is to be built on and so on and so forth, that's so not understanding the Hod Shebahod. So we're right back to that. Okay.
Right.
Somebody told me that actually when they dried the hula
Yeah.
swamps, they did something